there was an individual by the name of Ḥātim al-Aṣamm. Ḥātim al-Aṣamm. Al-Aṣamm in Arabic means the one who is deaf. Why was he given this title in the first place? They say one day one lady came to ask him a question, and while asking him a question, she broke wind. So she felt a bit embarrassed. So what he done was, as she asked the question, he told her, can you speak a bit louder? And she raised the voice, and he said, sister, I still can't hear. Can you speak a bit louder? And she raised the voice. And then she thought to herself, if he can't hear my question, in all probability, he never heard me breaking wind. So that's the reason he was given this particular title. It stuck with him for the rest of his life. Anyway, the books of history mention that he was an individual that had a very, very, very big family. وَكَانَ لَا يَمْلِكُ شَيْئًا. He owned absolutely nothing. So one day he was out with his friends, just like tonight. He was chilling. They were having an informal discussion. People were just sitting. فَتَعَرَّضُوا لِذِكْرِ الْحَجِّ. And some of the people in the gathering brought up the issue of Hajj. فَدَاخَلَ الشَّوْقُ قَلْبَهُ. So when they brought up the topic of Hajj, obviously it ignited some kind of desire within him to go for Hajj. But because he owned nothing, and his responsibility was to look after his family, رَجَعَ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِ. He goes back to his family, وَجَلَسَ مَعَ أَوْلَادِهِ. And he sits with his children. And he tells his children, he says, ماذا عليكم لو أذنتم لأبيكم أن يذهب إلى بيت ربه في هذا العام حاجا. He said, tell me something, oh my kids. Primarily my responsibility needs to be here at home. So if you all don't give me the permission, then I will not be able to go. But he says, if you give me the permission, would it be possible for your father to undertake the journey of Hajj? So the wife and some of the kids, they said, oh father, if you're going to go, what's going to happen to us? And he had a little daughter at that time. So the little daughter looks at the entire family and she tells the entire family, ماذا عليكم لو فعلتم أو لو أذنتم فإنه مناول للرزق وليس بالرزاق. She said, I don't see what's the problem, why we can't send our father. He's just the means via which Allah sustains us. He's not the sustainer. Allah is the sustainer. So if our father passes away tomorrow, does that mean we're not going to eat for the rest of our life? So like, let him go, what's the issue? And they were like, صدقت والله هذه الصغيرة. Actually, this young girl is making sense. So what they done was, they told him, okay, father, you're allowed to go. And he undertakes the journey of Hajj. فَأَصْبَحَ عَلَيْهِمْ جِيرَانُهُمْ يُوبِخُونَهُم. The next few days, the neighbors come into contact with the family. And every time they're like, where's Ḥātim? And the mother is like, he's gone for Hajj. People start reprimanding them. Like, what are you guys doing? You were supposed to be at home. Who's looking after you guys? And everyone is like now starting to reprimand them. It's difficult for the kids to walk in the street. And everyone, someone sees someone in the family, they just like, at it, mocking them. So when they came home, they looked at this young girl and they told her, لو سكت حينما تكلمنا. All of this is because of you. In future, when big people are talking, you must learn to keep quiet. When big people are talking, you must learn to keep quiet. So now, there's a moment where every single person seems to be temporarily cut off from this young girl. Her only hope is Allah at that moment. She goes into one corner and she raises her hand in dua. And as she lifts her hands in dua, there's a knock on the door. And the minister of that particular town, or the leader of that particular town, is coming from a particular expedition. Or he's coming from some hunting trip, as some books actually mention. And when he came there, the mother or the wife of Ḥātim says, who's at the door? And he introduces himself. So she opens the door and he says, I need a glass of water. فَأَخَذَتْ كَوْسًا وَمَلَأَتْ فِيهِ مَاءً. She takes a beautiful cup and she fills it with water. And when he drinks this particular glass of water, he understands that this water is extremely, extremely palatable and beautiful. So this must be the house of some kind of minister or... So he inquires, whose house is this? And one of the soldiers from behind lean forward and inch forward, and they say, this is the house of عَبْدٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِ اللَّهِ يُسَمَّى الْحَاتِمَ الْأَصَمْ. This is one of those people that are very attached to Allah. His name is Ḥātim al-Aṣamm. So he was like, Ḥātim al-Aṣamm, okay. So they said, just to let you know, he's undertaken the journey of Hajj. So he said, if he's undertaken the journey of Hajj, then that becomes the responsibility of the community to then look after this particular family. And he reaches in his bag, and whatever he puts in, the hand that he puts in, whatever he takes out in the form of gold, he gives it to the family. And then he turns around and he looks at the soldiers and he says, whoever claims to love me should do as I did. And instantaneously the family become enriched. Overnight, not even overnight, within a few seconds. And here's the girl in this corner and she begins to cry profusely. And the other sisters come to her and they tell her that there's definitely something wrong with you. Now at the time when you need to be happy, you're actually spending your time crying. And she says, I'm spending my time crying because I'm just wondering that a creation from amongst the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just for a few moments looked at us with the eye of compassion and we became enriched. Can we imagine if the Creator himself has to look at us with an eye of compassion?